Welcome to B2B Noble.
That's right, no double speaker gibberish, no talking heads. This is a safe place to talk about what you as professionals in the space can do to look like heroes to your bosses, make sales very happy, bring success to the organization, and that bottom line. Let's get started.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of B2B Noble, and I'm Liz Brohan.
Now, the script says I'm her slightly wiser and slightly older brother, Mark, but I kind of like seasoned and battle-hardened. How's that? That's a Game of Thrones kind of thing. But today, we are driving into a world that every marketer touches, but few truly understand: promotional merchandise.
Yeah, I'm kind of excited to talk about this because it's one of those subjects that I think are a little rare. And I know a lot of people call it different stuff. They call it giveaways, they call it swag, they call it freebies. And I always think about the logo slapped stress ball that I just can't seem to live without. But, you know, that's not really what it is, right?
No. Other people see it, they call it trinkets, they call it trash, or the stuff you gather in a bag at a trade show you leave in the hotel before you get on the plane home.
Or bring it home for the kids.
You bet.
I got to be honest. Here's the thing, everybody. This world has completely evolved, and it's really not like that anymore. So what people are looking for today in corporate merchandise is what my kids would call bougie, right? It is higher end. It is luxe. It is premier brands. It is sustainable merchandise. And I think the list goes on and on. So we're super excited that, we have an expert in all of this with us today. So please welcome everybody, Sarah Johnston. She's a dynamic entrepreneur. Wait till you hear how old she was when she started her company. It's just crazy. She's a culture builder. She's a strategic thinker, and she was the founder of Promo Spark. So anyway, she launched that right out of college. Can you imagine? I mean, that just seems a little crazy, and so we got to touch on that a little later. And then she ran it all the way through 2024 when it was acquired by Brandito, and they were a leading promotional company out of Richmond, Virginia.
And let's not forget, to Sarah's credit, she helped guide the transition. She mentored the leaders, the future leaders. And since retiring from Bandito at the end of 2005, now she's giving back. A whole new chapter focused on leadership, growth, entrepreneurship, and once again, giving back. Thank you, Sarah.
Yeah, that's another thing we're going to touch on for sure. Sarah and her husband, Mark, founded Free Throws for Kids. It's a nonprofit that has raised so far $1.4 million. That's in the millions. That's a lot for Cincinnati Children's Hospital and their local Ronald McDonald house. So, wow, Sarah, we got a lot to cover. Welcome.
Yeah, welcome to the show. Come on down. Spin the wheel.
Thank you. Thank you very much to both of you. I'm super excited to be here today. And I could probably talk swag a lot longer than you want to listen to.
I don't know about that. I think our listeners might be kind of intrigued by this, right? But let's start by kind of rewinding the clock a little bit, all right? So for years, like we were just talking about, promo merchandise kind of had a brand problem, right? Or a reputation problem.
Yeah, definitely. It was definitely more quantity over quality. It was like, how much can I get for, the cheapest dollar? And there's definitely been a shift in the market for that.
But is it true that if the trash gets more brand impressions than the company, your merch strategy is broken?
Oh, yeah. You don't want to, yeah. Cheap now is, not only if the item is physically cheap, like it's going to fall apart quickly. Not only, is that not good, but it affects all your impressions and everything like that. I know one of the stats that I pulled up recently was that 65% of consumers will keep the product if it's useful and if it's not going to fall apart. So you're just going to, from a marketing standpoint, you're just going to get that many more impressions, over time. And also cheap can hurt your brand. When the product feels cheap, the brand feels cheap.
Oh, absolutely. I think that's a bit of a mic drop moment, and I got to be honest, I love some of the merchandise that I've gotten over the years, and I still wear some of the wearables. So,
Yeah.
yeah, if it's good quality, that's just fun seeing people walking around the street with your logo on.
Yeah. No, for sure. I know we have a local event here in Cincinnati that they used to go with a very inexpensive box looking t-shirt, and they ended up spending a little bit more to get more of a fashion forward t-shirt. And the year that they made that transition, you saw that people wearing that shirt so much more than you had in past years, and they've never looked back, and they always spend, you're not talking $2-3 more in this particular case because of volume, but they're willing to spend the 30 to 50 cents extra per item to have such a bigger impact in the on their cause.
So can you elaborate, Sarah? Liz, you and Liz just touched on something I think is hugely interesting here, which is we've evolved from a very cheap brand hurting type of environment into one that's kind of luxe, higher end, all about brand impression. I think you've seen the arc of that. Could you talk about the evolution of what you've seen and how it applies to marketing strategies?
Yeah, I think that, consumers have definitely become more savvy. They've also realized that they can get it's become an e-commerce world in the sense that you can find anything anywhere, and so you really have to make yourself stick out above your competition. And then sustainability is also something that people are becoming more conscious of. So it's not just recycled material. When you talk about sustainability, it's that water bottle that you're going to use 50 to 100 times versus just having a plastic water bottle and then throwing it, into the garbage.
Yeah, and
Um,
the best thing
yeah,
corporations can do, right, is to partner with premium brands. You just talked
yeah,
about, a water bottle. Well, Yeti comes to mind.
yeah,
And yeah, certainly Nike comes to mind, North Face.
right,
That's the kind of brand alliance, that's the kind of merchandise you want to lean towards, right?
right, yeah. Hmm.
You're kind of recapping, some of the arc you've seen, Sarah. The consumers become brand savvy, sustainability gain traction. Has this been an evolving thing, an immediate thing? What's the timeline been for marketers?
I think we saw a lot of change in our industry for COVID. And at that time, it was still things were not as much e-commerce centric, things were not as sustainable from in front of you. So I think a lot of this evolved since COVID, and clients became more educated. They had to, because we were kind of in a sink or swim situation, a lot of companies were. And so that's when I started seeing a lot of the shift.
Do you also think it's psychological? I mean, you were just talking about how it kind of moved and evolved during COVID. And I just remember during COVID, everybody was home, nobody was getting together, and you kind of felt cheated a little bit from some of the better interactions that, corporate America used to give us, right? So,
Right.
what maybe was that part of it? Were people like just craving something better?
I think people were, yeah, I think like less became more, right? Like you realized you didn't have such a fast paced life. You realized that, hey, I can live with less, because, people didn't know what the, economy was going to be like during a certain period of time. So, yeah, I think that kind of shifted, people's mindset for sure.
Yeah, I had a feeling you might agree with that. That's super interesting. And so while consumers or just, even people that were going to receive this merchandise, their mindset started to change, so did your industry, right?
Yeah.
Tell us about how sourcing and procurement and all of that, impacted what you do.
Yeah, so I will never forget when we got all the like news of the world shutting down. We had started ecom platforms, but the only way to survive was to quickly shift to ecom. So how could we offer things to clients that were going to help them be able to market to their clients? And so one of the things that we realized was like, okay, people needed to still feel valued if they were at home working remotely. And something that we came up with were like work from home kits. So, like, if a company wanted to, they have 1,000 employees working from home now, and they want to keep those employees engaged, they want to keep, retention, then we would create a kit. It might have a notepad, it might have AirPods, it might have a Yeti water bottle, and it would go and get drop shipped and delivered to all of the different employees across the country. And so what we learned is that fulfillment was definitely a turning point in our industry in the early 2020, and that is still continued. And people now have gotten comfortable, even more so with things being delivered to their house. So they're just, well, I'm not going to, even in races, we do a lot of races, and it's funny because we'll go, we have races that they used to have packet pickup, and now they're like, nope, customers are willing to pay $5 or $6 to have it shipped to them. So how, when that package comes to them, how do you make that experience like emotionally connect with them?
Yeah, I love this idea because I never got one. But yeah, it's like the Oscars gift basket or something.
Yes,
That's really,
yes.
yeah, that's a huge shift. Yeah.
Part of what changed the needle on this, Sarah, and you just mentioned this, is e-commerce. And I go back to the very beginning of e-commerce in 1998. And I worked for a trade publishing company. We launched a magazine called Internet Retailer. And then I ranked the leading online retailers on their web sales for 15 going on 16 years. So I saw the rise of a lot of the e-commerce movement. My point is that when I would look at the specialties and the merchandise categories that kind of moved the needle historically over time, promotional products were one of the earliest ones. And the reason for that is they got into personalization well before a lot of the other merchandise segments did. So you got a lot of cutting edge brands there.
Yeah, definitely.
And then build it yourself too. You want to customize? Here are the tools to do it. So
yeah,
very, very innovative industry when it comes to e-com.
I would say in some ways they have been innovative. In other ways, there's a lot of room for improvement still. And so, but I will say there are some platforms that are out there that, yeah, you could design your whole shirt, or you could a mug, or any product. From the technology standpoint of art design, yes, it has really come a long ways. Now, just in the last year, we're starting to see some stuff where you can do redemption and points, and kind of like, how you have your credit card platforms with your rewards and stuff like that. And now you can get on and do all these different things with it. You're starting to see that trickle down into the promotional industry too, which is really cool because it just then broadens what you can offer to people.
No kidding. I mean, the things that we see corporations doing today really feel next level. And I think it feels appreciated, certainly. And I don't think people are going to leave it in a hotel room after a trade show any longer, because it's kind of high-end merchandise. And so, Mark, I know that, the whole e-commerce aspect of the world is really kind of your area of expertise. So maybe you guys can kind of talk about some of the other things that you're seeing, like online pop-up stores that allow corporations to, tie in with other brands and keep some of this moving. What else are we seeing in this evolution?
And Sarah, I think just to kind of elaborate on Liz's point here, which is the logistics side, as you well know, because you experienced this from the very beginning, which is that's exploded. You just mentioned things like print on demand, web stores, on-demand fulfillment.
Yeah. No, I would say it is really neat to see all the different things that you can do with the e-commerce side of things. And, just some of the examples of projects that we've worked with are, you have a large corporation that has locations all across the United States. Well, they don't want to inventory all of these products, whether they don't have the space or they just don't want to have that financial overhead. So what they start doing is having us do print on demand. And so that allows us to produce items one at a time, two at a time, a dozen at a time. And apparel and soft goods are easier to do that type of work than hard goods are at times. So it just kind of, you really have to evaluate what their goals are and with what is realistic in our industry. and then you can get them, working. But yeah, the print on demand model has been really good because then you can just, one or two at a time, drop ship that to their employees or their clients that are all over the United States. The other model that we're seeing a lot of is like points redemption. So if you go to a conference and you are supposed to take some educational seminars, and you are get points maybe for attending so many seminars at a conference, then those points can then be redeemed for merch online after you've attended them. And so that's another way that we've seen people bring in e-commerce. And then you're trying to streamline, and then you have the person who is, the great admin who tries to collect it all. She's keeping spreadsheets or manual paper to try and collect all the things that are going on for maybe a new company promo t-shirt that they want coming out, and she needs to get the size for everybody. Well, you can make either a form or an e-com platform where you're collecting that information, it's getting consolidated, and then you're able to just spit out the numbers a lot quicker than manually doing it. So there's a lot of not just physical dollars being saved, but soft dollars as far as what admin people had to do in the past. So that's been also a neat advancement in our industry. So yeah, those are just a few of the fun ones that we've been able to, I just like helping people with how do we make your job easier?
Well, I'm big on timelines. And Sarah, you've seen this over a very long timeline from your perspective. So on the timeline, are companies and manufacturers using e-commerce more in their promotional initiatives? I mean, is it a mature evolution, or it's still very much segmented depending upon who the brand is?
I think you're seeing more and more companies use the e-commerce platforms. I think some of them are executed really well, and then other times, it's just a website that got put up that didn't have a lot of like user experience um, attributes built in. So I think it depends. And I think for every client, it is different. We've had clients come to us over the years and say, I want an e-commerce store. I want an e-commerce store. Well, you want to think about the expense that goes into developing an e-commerce store, because it is easy to just slap a website up there to a certain degree now with a lot of the templates that are out there, especially with AI and everything like that. However, it's the maintaining of it. It's, making sure your products are updated. It's making sure you have the right information about the products, the size scale, and then, refreshing it. That's where your expense kind of comes in, is the maintenance side of it. So you want to make sure you're getting enough revenue off of your platform to be able to justify maintaining it. So yeah, it can vary. I think sometimes people think, oh, everybody needs or wants a website, but that isn't always like what the answer could be or should be.
Sarah, it certainly seems like this industry shift may have changed your business big time. If on one hand you've got warehouses full of merchandise, now you need to become expert in technology. How did that change your skill sets and your team's skill sets?
That's a great question. I would say I've always had a passion for technology. So I was always 100% in on how we could incorporate technology, but I do know that, that wasn't comfortable for everybody. And so at times it was a slower learning curve, or even just a slower, like trying to explain, okay, let's use this tool because this is going to help your business. And so, it's just open conversations and, hey, this is how we can help you and, make everything a little bit better.
One of the things, Sarah, I think that you're very familiar with is team selling. What is that? And how does that apply to marketing, merchandising, promotional products?
Yeah. So when I first started in this industry, I would say that a lot of people were just independent sales reps, essentially. They might have been under an umbrella of a corporation, um, but it was a lot of, I just had my own book of business, let's say, and then the next person had their own book of business. And so the team selling model is definitely, I would want to partner with a company that is doing this team selling model. And the reason for that is because things happen in life, things can be unpredictable. And so, what you can do with team selling is that you're going to have a group of people who know you and your business pretty intimately. And so, then, if tied up in meetings, you can get a hold of my peer and they're going to be able to help you just as well as I could have. You might get an idea from me that you like, and maybe an even better idea from my peer that you like, and you can then mold the two things together. So from like just a standpoint, then you can also really focus in on, like, so if you have a couple salespeople and then you have a graphic designer and then like a logistics expert, then you're able to bring that whole team together and have a group of people that are going to be experts in everything, instead of one person trying to be the expert in everything, but is just their time is, too tight to do that.
Well, if I could just ask a quick sidebar question, both to Liz and to you, Sarah, who's the team leader here? The CMO, the director of marketing? Who directs the team to do all the things we just mentioned?
So it's like selling pods almost. So like you would have a sales account. You have an account executive, but then you might have a sales assistant, a graphic designer, and a logistics person all on a team. And so if I am the client, then I know at any given moment I can reach out to any one of those people on that team.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that makes total sense. And I think they appreciate having all these specialists at their disposal.
Well, and another example is, like, I would tell you, in our industry, logistics can become a challenge. And so at any given time, I can reach out to the logistics person on my team instead of me reaching out to that one salesperson. And then that one salesperson has to call the logistics person, and that, it might have to go down 2 or 3 people. So you're getting faster responses by having team selling. When you have people go on vacation or maternity or paternity leave, or there's turnover in a company, like, you don't feel like, oh shoot, like I'm swimming out in the middle stranded. You have a group of people at any given time that you can depend on.
Yep, that makes total sense to me. Absolutely. I'm going to shift gears for a minute because I really wanted to talk about the sustainability aspect of, how your industry is changing. When did that come about? Was that even before COVID, and what does it mean to people? And actually, my third part to that question, I'm going to sound like Mark now.
Hey.
Is that generational, or does everybody care about sustainability today?
I think that everybody thinks of sustainability a little bit different. And I would tell you, before 2020, when you talked about sustainability, people just talked about recyclable type stuff. Now, when people talk about sustainability, I would tell you that yes, recycled material is grouped into that, but it also includes like a company's ESG statement. And are we looking at products that can be reused over and over and not just thrown in the trash? Is that company, do they have fair labor? Are they sourcing from companies that have fair labor? So I think that sustainability the term has expanded since COVID, in a good way. So yeah, and it's very much a buzzword in our industry, but it doesn't mean that it has to be recycled, if that makes sense. It's a broad term.
Oh, yeah. I do think it means a lot of different things to a lot of different people, and not just because maybe it was recycled, but whatever a corporation wants to give you will somehow not hurt the earth.
Right.
is really just kind of a big part of it, right?
Yes.
Now I'm going to switch gears again because I really want to kind of go back and talk a little bit more about your journey, all right? Like we all have said, you actually launched Promo Spark right out of college, okay? That's bold. Good for you. Why would you do that?
It's kind of a funny story. In college, I worked at like a collegiate bookstore and did like graphic designing on the side. And my boyfriend in college worked with a promotional product distributor that he went around and sold T-shirts on campus. And we both just kind of independently did those things. And then when we graduated, we both were kind of talking. We both were interested in business. And he said, "Hey, why don't we start our own business?" And I said, sure, why not? We got nothing else that we're doing. And so that summer after college graduation, we planned our business. And both of our parents were like, "What are you doing starting a business with your boyfriend and or your girlfriend, right?
This will
Like
not end well, right?
why did you do this?" And so we went forward with it, being in like literally like 22, 21, and not too naive to know any different. And honestly, I look back and I'm like, man, I really didn't know anything. But then too, I was like, I'm kind of glad I didn't know anything at the same time, because when we always said, if this doesn't work, we'll go get real jobs in 5 years. So every 5 years, we would do an evaluation and say, well, if this doesn't work, we're going to go, get a real job. So maybe I'm going to get a real job now. I don't know. But that's how it evolved. But anyway, we started the business as boyfriend and girlfriend. And about 3 months after we started the business, he proposed. And so then we were planning a wedding and trying to start a business all in the first year together. And so he stayed with the business for about 10 years with me, and then went off and did another business. And so I now we say that probably saved our marriage. I don't know, but it's been really cool though, because we can bounce ideas off of each other and just have different perspectives on different things. So I do think we complement each other when it comes to business. But so that's how it started, we didn't have much to lose. I think like we had $1,000 to our name, and that was it. Like it was that was all we had. So it started from very humble beginnings.
I think that's still great advice today. I mean, I think the folks listening to this podcast would get a lot of good advice by just not thinking that you have to know everything, to just kind of jump in the deep end, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And maybe with an exit plan, maybe not. It doesn't really matter, but it's just the best way to kind of get something started.
Yeah.
Yeah, not to steal from Nike, but it really is just about just do it, which is what you and Mark did. Yeah.
My
100, that's good.
My sister Liz here is probably the best mentor of young women in business I have ever known, to her credit. And part of the reason that we launched this podcast on this very interesting topic is we are following her directive, which is to help educate future marketers on the way up from getting the benefit of experience from a person like yourself, Sarah. So having set that up, was it fun back in the day? And when did you learn that you could scale something and really make it take off?
It was really fun. I mean, I don't look back and regret anything. And the journey has been amazing. And I would say probably it wasn't, it was probably later in the business that I realized that this could be more scalable. I realized by going to conferences and talking to other business owners, like, hey, PromoSpark is really forward thinking. PromoSpark is engaging in technology that other, businesses in our industry are not. And PromoSpark has some really good procedures in place. There were a couple books that I read along the way that really helped me get a mindset into scaling. And for that reason, that it was probably like 7-ish to 10 years ago that I realized, we could scale this. And so, that's when we tried to really start growing, and it took off. And then, from there, in the next chapter.
Yeah, well, clearly you attracted the attention of a buyer, right? Yeah. Tell us how that all came about.
I didn't necessarily have the company like on the market or anything. I just started talking to the owner, and our viewpoints on the industry and our culture of our companies aligned, and we started talking, and they had some really good things going on. And, I said, I want to be a part of this. And the other part was that we were getting a seat at the table for some pretty good clients, but we couldn't always leverage closing it because we didn't have necessarily the buying power at times. And so getting and sometimes we were getting so we would get, that would get discouraging at times, or we would find we didn't have enough resources for marketing or for some of the e-commerce things that we wanted to do, and they had whole departments on this. So it was really cool that when we kind of came together, that they were able to help us in some of our weak spots. And I had gotten to the point in the company where I recognized my strengths and my weaknesses, and I knew that I needed to have a partner that was going to help us be able to take it over to the next level. And the last 2 years, we've really been able to do that. So that's been super exciting.
And now you're kind of not a part of that any longer. You made the transition happen. So tell us, what's next for you?
It's a great question. I'm going to take a breather for a minute, maybe do a little bit of traveling and spend some time with family. My oldest son is graduating from high school this year, so that'll keep me busy. But I don't want to just sit at home and do nothing. I want to be, contributing. I want to volunteer. Like you, Liz, I want to mentor other females because I do think it is so important for, females to get out into, the working world, because they really have a great impact and value too. So I'm exploring my options. I feel I like a lot of things. So I don't feel like I'm going to be bored at all.
No, and it doesn't sound like you're going to take a beat at all.
Probably not.
Probably not. Right. Why would you? Okay. Well, let's just talk for a minute about your nonprofit. I know we kind of started at the top by, how successful it's been, but tell us how it works. How does Free Throw for Kids actually work?
Okay. So what we do is teams of people, so teams of anywhere from 4 to 10 people, come together at a local high school here, and they shoot 500 free throws to raise money for Cincinnati Children's Hospital and the Ronald McDonald House. And so along the way, they will fundraise leading up to the event. And they don't have to be good at basketball. You can do the granny shot. There is no shame in that. I'm very short, so I can barely hit the rim when I do shoot. So, and then we will raise money. And what we do 4 very specific things with that money. The first thing is we make 1,000 care packages for Cincinnati Children's Hospital. And those go to families who have unexpected stays in the hospital. And they include comfort items like a blanket, a book, and a stuffed animal, a game that the family can play together. And then they include a gas gift card for families that have to travel back and forth from the hospital,
that's
brilliant. Food gift card so that they can send food home to family members that are still staying at home. There's also other, things, a water bottle and a journal so they can take notes when the doctors come in. So that's the first thing that we do with the money. The next thing is that we sponsor the salad bar at the Ronald McDonald House. And before Free Throws for Kids, they did not have any fresh fruits and vegetable options at the Ronald McDonald House. So that was really impactful that we were able to bring in healthier eating options for the people who stay there. And then we also donate $10,000 each year to a social workers fund at Children's Hospital, so they can use the money kind of just at their discretion. They don't have to jump through a lot of red hoops to get easy access for some patients. So like a real life example of that is a mother was giving her kid the wrong medication, and they couldn't figure out like why this was happening. And come to find out, the mother's vision was really bad, but she didn't have insurance to be able to get an eye exam or even glasses. And so what the social worker was able to do is provide that financial resource for her so that she could then start reading the prescription bottles that she was trying to, administer to her child. And then the last thing that we just started a couple years ago is the Legacy Fund. And that's any excess money that we have is going into an endowment fund so that Free Throws for Kids impact can last in perpetuity. So even when Mark and I are gone, or our board is gone, and we're not, able to continue, if we're not able to continue, we're able to continue giving to the causes that we have. So the other thing that I really like about our organization is that it's 100% volunteer based. So all of us have, busy lives and full-time jobs. So none of the money is going to pay anybody's salary. It's all going back to the cause. So that's what Free Throws for Kids is.
That's exciting. That sounds like something that maybe you should think about scaling as well.
We've had a lot of people approach us about that.
I bet. It's such a cool idea. So, all right, make it happen, Sarah.
Do you know what the wounded duck is?
No, tell me.
It's the classic shooter's pose. So that's how you shoot a free throw at the line. If you see a classic free throw shooter, a jump shot shooter, their hands are formed like a dying duck. It's called the wounded duck.
What?
That would be me.
No, that if you see a kid doing that, that's pure shooter's form. You know they can hit.
Oh, okay. Well, that would not be me then.
See,
All right, yeah,
the things you
totally.
learn on marketing podcasts.
There you go,
Yes, this is good
everybody.
information.
Good Lord. All right, well, talk about learning. All right, really quick. Let's just kind of wrap everything up. Mark always likes to call this the no bull zone. Okay,
All right.
Sarah? So
Yes.
give us the blunt truths about merch today.
Okay, so I have a note jotted down here because I thought this was pretty cool stats. I would say that number one, our industry is big and resilient, which is really cool. It's a $27 billion industry. And I
Wow.
think that
Yikes.
it gets
Wow.
underestimated at times, but it's resilient because we can bend and mold to whatever's going on in the economy at any given time. So I think that's really cool to know. I also think that impressions are important. And you tend to get a lot of impressions out of promo when you don't realize it. And some of the quick stats that I was looking at is an average t-shirt that you get from a company or a wearable over its lifetime gets 6,100 impressions. Bags, like tote bags or any type of travel bag, 3,000 impressions. And so you have a low cost for impressions, which I think is really neat.
Yes.
Premiums need to be quality and useful. If they're useful, you're going to get a significant more impact on the dollar, your marketing dollar. Cheap harms perception of your company. And then partner with a company that's doing team selling. Those would be my takeaways.
Those are great. And this whole conversation has been so rich, so we can't thank you enough for doing this with us today. A, we learned a bunch. And then B, I'm just excited for, your nonprofit and can't wait to see it continue its great success. And you too.
Oh, you guys are so nice. Thank you both, Mark and Liz.
We look forward to
This
having
is
you back
awesome.
and exploring more on this topic. Because one of the reasons I think that we're talking about this today is it's a very underestimated, misunderstood part of B2B marketing. Don't you think, Liz?
Yeah, absolutely. And marketing in general, it really can contribute to the brand story. As Sarah just mentioned, there are business metrics, that you can actually track. So there's more to it, I think, than most marketers even give thought to.
Yeah, I would agree with that for sure.
Well, great. Like Mark said, let's figure out how to have you back and we'll continue this conversation. In the
Wonderful.
meantime, if maybe some volunteers out there do want to reach out to you, maybe they are in the Cincinnati area, how should they get a hold of you?
I can be looked up on LinkedIn, Sarah Johnston. And then my email is s.johnston@thescjgroup.com.
Excellent. That is brilliant. Well, thank you, everybody. And for another brilliant second, I would like to talk about our sponsors and thank them very much for supporting, this show. We have Embas. Embas is a marketing communications firm that specializes in content development, change management, and strategic marketing. And then also, we'd like to thank the Motion Agency. The Motion Agency has been ranked the number 2 fastest growing B2B marketing communications firm in the country. So please, folks, look them up and connect with them. All right. Well, thank you again, everybody. And until next time, remember, no bull, okay?
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.